everybody. Welcome to UXSA's Community September Meetup Group. We're so excited to have you here this evening, and I just wanted to go over a few things, and then we can get started right away on our presentation and our guest speakers. We will, after I go through a few slides here, we will start the presentation and then have a Q&A at the end. We'll wrap them up by 7:30, and then this is Central Time. And then we have some announcements, the door prize drawing, and we have networking after that. And depending on how far that goes or how late we want to start, stop talking, then we will wrap up around 8 o'clock. If you do have any questions for us or the speakers, feel free to use the chat. Paula will be monitoring and keeping a record of those so that she can ask your questions, or you may be called on to ask directly if you feel like sharing your, if you want to talk. If not, they can just ask directly. And if you have a question or have some issues that you need to speak, then just raise your hand with under your participants screen there, selection. At UXSA, we believe in having a culture. We feel like you create it. Either it happens intentionally or unintentionally, and we intentionally want to make sure that our culture is by intention as a default. For humans create culture by default or intention. At USSA, our culture intentionally supports the curiosity, learning, networking, and diversity. We're here to help each other and support each other. We want this to be a safe place to ask questions. We don't feel like this is a dumb question or anything, and this is a learning place for sure. We want you to feel comfortable to express your thought and reach out and connect with others. And we have a way for you to do that in several different ways, however you feel comfortable. We have a Facebook page, we have a LinkedIn page, we have a Slack channel that's pretty active, and welcome you to do that. Paula can share that in the chat so that you can link straight through to join our Slack discussions. We also have a YouTube channel that you can subscribe to catch up on any of these meetings like this that you may miss, and catch up on the ones that you have not seen before. And we also have a website that is in progress, and we're working on new things all the time. We have places for volunteers to help, and we have a few of those as well. So if you want to be a part of the community group, none of us are paid. We're doing this out of just pure love for the industry. So it's a passion project for us, and we'll welcome any and all help wherever you feel comfortable. We also have some sponsors that have helped us throughout this last year. We have gotten a great donation from USAA to start, and then Firecat Studio has been wonderful supporting us along the way. And then Pressable hosts our website for free. Aquin comes in and does portfolio reviews and helps with jobs, and then Tech Systems does as well. So we want to make sure they get a shout out. And tonight, the reason you're here for the presentation is Designing Complex Website Navigation with Diana and Liz. So I will let you introduce yourselves and take it away. I'll stop sharing.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I'll share my screen as soon as there you go. Let's see. Can you all see my my screen?
Yes, looks great.
Awesome. Okay, well, hi everyone, and welcome. Thank you all for being here. We are super excited to share this topic with you. And we have written about this in the past and used this methodology for the past few years. It is still a theory that we are presenting to a wider audience. So we are looking for all sorts of feedback and obviously questions and any thoughts you may have as you're listening to this. Okay, so please feel free to ask. Okay, so a little bit about us. I am Diana, and with my business partner, Liz, we're co-founders of CX by Design. We are a human-centered consulting firm that takes a data-driven approach to designing products, services, and systems. And as you all probably know, human-centered is a super fancy way of saying that we put customers' needs first in our design decisions. So I don't know if you've read our bios. I won't bore you with the fascinating details of our careers right now, but please do look us up on our website, cxby.design, and connect with us on LinkedIn as well. We love talking to interesting people all the time. So the short story is that we are longtime practitioners of UX design. And within that, our specialty is information architecture. Obviously, that includes navigation, which is what we're going to talk about today. So let's just dive right in. Just to give you a bit of context, we've worked in many different industries, from financial services to e-commerce to consumer packaged goods, and across a range of technology platforms as well, from enterprise apps to website redesigns to native mobile apps, all of it. What we found is that no matter the industry, product, or service, complex navigation is everywhere. And so what do we mean when we say complex? Most of the time, people think it's this huge hierarchy of navigational items on a website, for example. So something like Amazon, it lists everything: products, services, grocery shopping, etc. And yeah, that's certainly complex. There's no way around it. Information has to be structured on the internet, right? But so when we say complex, it includes that, but more importantly to this particular talk is that it also includes the challenge of translating in-person human interactions to online domains, especially when they're no longer possible, as we've seen in 2020 and 2021. So the pandemic is really an excellent testing ground for what we're discussing today, because it's forced a lot of companies to explore how to do business online when there's no offline experience to count on, right? But even before 2020, a lot of companies had increasingly done more business online than in person. The banking industry is a great example. All you have to do is look at the myriad of online-only financial services startups and the investment of traditional commercial banks, for example, in their online security and infrastructure. So the point here is that over the years, we've seen more and more businesses attempting to replicate in-person interactions online, but with mixed results. And from what we've observed, this happens because businesses are often stuck in this rigid view of how their customers navigate their products and services online. So over the years of actually observing people navigating various online platforms, we've realized that people don't care as much about perfectly structured hierarchy of information as they do about what their specific reason for being on a platform in the first place. So it's basically their why for being there. In other words, their intentions is pretty much the only thing they're thinking about. So this is what we're going to talk about today. We'll walk you through the general theory of designing for customer intentions, show you some examples, and talk you through a recent project where we've tested this. But before we do all that, I want to pause for a second and just talk about human interaction in general. We're all humans on this call, right? We're pretty aware that human interactions, even in their simplest forms, are complex. And the nuances of a simple conversation, for example, and kind of the in-person social cues we pick up on are not always straightforward. Attempting to translate in-person interactions into online experiences is a huge challenge, but it's essential to explore for a business. And here's why. Over the years, customer expectations for how our business treats them and understands their needs have gone up significantly. When you walk into a store, for example, most people expect to find a ready associate to help them find something. You can explain what you need or what you'd like to do, and the associate will walk you over to a product or recommend a service. And that's easy, and it all happens under 2 minutes. The trend we started to notice over the years, and even before COVID put restrictions in these in-person interactions, is that people expect the same level of navigation online as they experience in a physical place of business. And as crazy as that sounds, it's actually not. The line between offline and online gets more blurry with each year, and the level of service is expected to be similar. And also, customers know that businesses are collecting tons of data on them, so they expect the online experience to be highly customized to their intentions and needs. So given all this, translating in-person interactions into online experiences is almost a requirement going forward for many businesses. And it's been accelerated by the pandemic. And sure, if you have a monopoly in your space, the customer has no choice but to use whatever you're offering. But 95% of the time, that's simply not the case, right? And competition for customer attention can be quite fierce. So how do you differentiate and create loyal customers given their expectations and needs? Well, I mean, for us, as UX designers specializing in architecting information online, our answer lies in rethinking the design of navigation and products, services, and websites. And the central question we're asking ourselves always is, how can we design navigation that reflects the complexity of in-person interaction, but is still easy, intuitive, and effective? In other words, how can we make the digital experience more human for a complex product ecosystem? And then thinking about the complexity of in-person human interactions and designing an experience that's close to it online, we've narrowed down the starting point to something that we call customer intention. In other words, what are customer intentions? Like, what do your customers intend to do on your site, platform, or whatever we're working with? So here we have a couple of diagrams representing people navigating software applications or websites. The hexagons represent a place. On a website or an app, this might be a page or a view, for example. The person in the middle of the hexagon has several paths. In an application or on a website, these would be links. So this person has several paths that they could take to get to the next place, right? On the left-hand side, we see an example of a customer path often defined on software projects. If you've been on a software project before, you'll recognize this as the happy path. So in this example, we assume the user has a singular task, and once they start down a path, the user is completely focused on his or her task. There are no distractions, questions, or thoughts that the user has on this path. Navigations built this way are very linear to ensure the customer or user is forced to the happy path. Unfortunately, this method really misses the mark in real life. We're not designing utopia here, right? And so to a user or a customer, limiting path options to a very linear happy path thinking only feels more like a business telling them where they should go, and less like the business supporting them in where they intend or want to go. Psychologically, this style of navigation can decrease a user's intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation we can define as doing something without any obvious external reward to the user or the customer. So forced linear navigation decreases intrinsic motivation by decreasing two key things. The first one is competence. And competence is, we define it as the desire to control and master whatever online environment you're in and its outcome. And the second one is autonomy, or the desire of exercising your free will. So now let's look at the right-hand hexagon diagram, or the more realistic path. In this example, a user walks through the happy path door, but then decides to take a right. Immediately, their environment shifts to support them in meeting their intention. By taking a right, the user has given the system a clue about their intention for visiting. With the more realistic path, it doesn't matter if they stay on the happy path or not. The navigational path shapeshifts and customizes to their actions. So there are no navigational quote unquote mistakes to basically recover from. This idea of a digital ecosystem taking into account what you are selecting and cultivating your interface based on that increases competence and autonomy, and thereby it increases intrinsic motivation. We want our software built on psychological principles that cater to the needs of customers, right? If our goals are to build loyalty and long-term value for the business. So customers have to be empowered on your digital property, and they really should enjoy being there, right? So our hypothesis is that if we design digital navigation structures that empower the right side of the diagram, we'd be creating that human, organic conversation and empowering customers to fulfill their intentions on your digital property. This would also increase customers' intrinsic motivation, making them more happy and loyal, and ultimately making business more profitable. So before we get into the details of a project that we worked on, let me show you an example of navigation designed around customer intentions or the more realistic path. So this is a screenshot of the retail brand Patagonia's homepage. And when we hear the word navigation, we often think of the bar across the top of the web page, right? Or a hamburger menu on the upper left or right-hand side of a page. In this example, it's a bar across the top we see here highlighted in red. So this is what we call hierarchical linear navigation. This type of nav structure anchors a user, giving them a sense of place, which is great. It also often mirrors how the company thinks a user should explore their digital property. But over-reliance on this type of structure often increases cognitive load and makes your digital ecosystem confusing and or frustrating, especially if the user is unfamiliar with the product or service. So this often has the undesirable effect of decreasing user autonomy and competence along the way. And navigation can be so much more. It's not just hierarchical, it can also be lateral. So if we stay with the Patagonia example, above you see a screenshot of a portion of a product page for a backpack. So here, you also have lateral navigation here highlighted in red, which takes cue from user intent. So this lateral nav carries the users through the website by following their intentions or interests as they navigate the product or website. For example, given the well-documented eco-consciousness of Patagonia customers, it's likely that one of their intentions is, from the customer's point of view, when I purchase a product, I want to ensure or learn about how it's made. By including this module and the learn more links to the individual method or characteristics, Patagonia users can meet this intention. Now, we know that lateral navigation isn't new, but what is new is thinking through and then defining this navigation by customer intention, rather than by the standard way of kind of this brand-focused information hierarchy. So this lateral intentions-based navigation reinforces the customer's perception that the business understands them. And this, in turn, leads to increased customer feelings of autonomy and competence regarding their purchase, and therefore to higher purchase rates and increased loyalty. Their lateral navigation doesn't tell you one thing about Patagonia's business, how Patagonia's business is organized or structured, but it does combine meeting customer intentions and meeting Patagonia's business goals or values of saving the planet. So right now, I'll pass it over to Liz, and she'll walk you through a fairly recent example of how we applied the customer intentions method in one of our projects. Okay.
Yes, so we worked with a company called Sitka, which is a hunting apparel and gear company who design and sell high-end, very intricately designed products for hunters. Now, their products are unparalleled, but not many potential customers were able to make the connection between the products and their high price points on their own. You see, to most customers, a camo jacket was just a camo jacket. But Sitka was designing each of their products specifically for hunting a particular type of prey in a certain environment. For example, they create one jacket that retails at several $100s. It's that expensive because it's specifically designed for hunting big game animals at high elevation. Think bighorn sheep at 10,000 feet or above. So when customers were shopping for gear in a store, the sales representative was explaining this complexity. Now, once the potential customer had that in-store conversation, they usually bought the product, assuming they were, the target customer and they had the disposable income. The problem for Sitka was they wanted to move their sales online. Now, this was a few years ago, so pre-COVID days, but of course, as we mentioned, more and more companies are needing to do the same now. But at that time, Sitka had redesigned their site the year before, but conversion rates, when they redesigned the site, they actually went down instead of up, and they were nothing compared to in-store. So I should also note, since we're all UX interested and nerdy on this call, that most of the data we were working off of was a combination of sales and other quantitative insights, along with plenty of qualitative one-on-one interviews with 30 or more prospects, casuals, loyalists, and even cheerleaders of the brand. So kind of across the spectrum of customer loyalty. So Sitka brought us in to help, and we decided to apply the customer intentions methodology. We did this by first defining the overall list of possible customers' intentions for the whole site. So what were customers aiming to do when they visited Sitka's website? And then the second thing we did was modeled and designed each page of the site to meet these customers' intentions. So let's talk a little bit about what that looked like. First, we got to know our users, and you can see a list of them on the upper left. And I know it's a bit small, but so I'll read off a few of them for example. So we had prospects that were new to the site, prospects that came back a second time, and a few kind of casual loyalist cheerleaders, etc. So we formulated that list from that research I told you about, and then we got to know these customers' intentions. And you can see this list, it's the next kind of column to the right. There are about 8 or so bullet points. These are all of the aims a customer might have when visiting the Sitka website. We then mapped out the good old happy path for each intention. And you can see this kind of highlighted in the bottom, all of those along the bottom, the hexagon kind of straight paths are all of the happy paths for each customer intention. So for example, what's highlighted in red here is the happy path for buying an item. The most happy path of all when buying an item looks like what we have here, which is the user starts at the home page. That's the black hexagon that's on the top of that 4 hexagon layering. So they start at the home page, and of course we know this idea in and of itself is a stretch, but that's a discussion for another day. So they start on the home page and they see a banner for some sort of jacket or pair of pants, and they click on that and they're taken to an individual product page, and that's that white hexagon, the next hexagon down. They are so wowed by the product page that they add the product to their cart, which is the 3rd gray hexagon, and then they immediately check out, which is the bottom hexagon. But we know this happy path isn't often the case. Users wander. They may look at one product and then another. They may even change their intention from buying an item that day to deciding to find a retailer and going to buy it in store. So how do we ensure their intentions are fulfilled, even if they veer off the happy path, which we know is likely to happen? And the answer to that is more hexagons, obviously. We ensure that each place, or in this case, page, so each hexagon represents a page. So we ensure that each page on the happy path has doorways or links to enable the customer to fulfill their intentions as they wander. And we shift these doorways based on the clues customers give us as they travel the site, just like a salesperson is able to do by talking to the customer in real time, just like we saw in that previous diagram where the user kind of wandered to the right and the whole line of hexagons morphed to help them do so. So at step 1, where it says home, when the user is on the home page, that's again the black hexagon in the middle, we don't yet know their intention. They haven't yet given us a clue as to why they're here. So the home page needs to have doorways to help customers solve any intention of the 8 we defined. And the hexagons surrounding that black home hexagon, they are the ones that are representing those doorways. Once a customer clicks on a product page, like we have below in step 2, we can double down on some idea, some facts that maybe they're there to buy an item or find a retailer or maybe investigate a hunting solution. Why else would they click on a product? On this product page, then, we ensure the obvious doors to help them add to cart or view other products. We ensure they're there, but we also make sure they could fulfill other potential intentions with relevant information doorways like articles and retailer information. And so on it goes in step 3 and 4. The important part here is that we do this for every page of the site. Now, the most challenging part of this method is that the doorways that exist to fulfill intentions should be the only ones on the page. Sure, you may have global navigation in the header or footer, but the content of the page should exist only to fulfill intentions. Otherwise, you're adding noise to the customer's experience and thereby decreasing their autonomy and competence and intrinsic motivation. As the user moves throughout the site, the doorways they need to fill their intentions shift. And so each step of theirs feels considered and they feel competent and autonomous. And even though the paths are still predefined, they are customized and intentional. And yeah, that pun was a little bit intended. So how does this actually turn into navigation? How does it turn into navigation for complex properties? I mean, we've been talking a lot about e-commerce sites up to this point, but not all of us work on e-commerce, and there are many other properties out there. And it would take us another few hours of discussion to go into the details of the method. And we're working on that. And we have done that in different workshops, like at the IA conference and in different industry conferences. But the 2-minute description is this. First, we define and prioritize customer intentions for each page of the site or application or whatever we're building. And knowing that most pages will only have a subset of the whole list of intentions. So for example, we determined that for Sitka Gear, the product page, the prioritized list of intentions didn't include all 8 that were for the site, but they were there to buy an item, to investigate or research a hunting solution, to find a retailer, to understand what Sitka does. So we define those for each page, and then we create page templates with each module of that template aimed at fulfilling a specific customer intention. For a Sitka product page, the template looked a little something like this. And I'm going to describe it because I know it's hard to read, but each row of this template represents a hexagon from our hexagon flow that we showed before. You'll remember this character down on the right-hand side. So as I said, this shows us the hexagon in the middle is the page that we're looking at. That's the template that we're looking at. And then the doorways that we need to have on this page to fulfill customer intentions are the surrounding hexagons. And then each of those surrounding hexagons becomes a module in the template. So you'll note that even though we have 4 customer intentions for this page, there are more than 4 hexagons. And that's where the UX creativity comes in, because there may be more than one way needed to solve an intention. You know, we know customers do the same things or accomplish the same goals in different ways. And as we get to know our customers more, that's how we kind of can cultivate our properties to them. So in this product page template, the top module, this bigger rectangle, I guess, is aimed at buying an item. And then you can see that because on the right-hand side, and again, I know it's a little hard to see, but we list out what the module and then the intentions, the bullet points are what intentions that module is there for, is filling by being there. And then right below that, the second is aimed at investigating or researching a hunting solution. So there's no question that designing for intentions takes some sort of upfront information architecture deep dive. But once that initial structure is in place, that's where the huge benefit comes in. So let's say your business develops a new product or service and you need to create a page for it online. Using this method and going through what we've just defined, you know the list of prioritized customer intentions for a product page, and you know what template you need to use in order to meet those intentions. All that's left to define is the product specific words and images and maybe some different items. So from there, it's this paint by numbers approach to making site updates. Putting new products online takes a far shorter amount of time. Yeah, there are elements to design and content to write, and we're going to be doing usability testing and tweaking these templates and learning and all of those things. But otherwise the structure of the site is pretty well built. And the best part is the structure has this organic conversation between your customer and your business baked right into it because it's been prioritized by customer intention. So that template we just saw turns into something like what we see here. We know, it looks like a web page. It is a web page. We didn't promise we were redefining the web here, people, but what is important within the web page is what's happening within the page is what's important. And again, it's a bit small, but you can see how it very much mimics that template. You can see how the information customers need to meet that priority intention to buy an item dominates the page. And as we scroll down the page, other intentions modules appear to fulfill relevant customer intentions. Fulfilling these intentions is what an in-store sales rep can do with organic conversation. And now this site is structured to do the same thing. AKA, customers can now understand why this product is so special in the field because it somehow targets the key whitetail funnels. And no, we still don't know what that means either, but it does that, we promise. We have had hierarchical and lateral navigation for a long time on the web, but in defining those navigations based on intentions, every link has a mountain of rationale and purpose behind it. And PS, it's now easier for the company to update their site too. So by understanding your customer's intentions, redefining how you think about navigation, modeling and designing an ecosystem that combines hierarchical and lateral or intentions-based navigation, and then putting a paint by numbers system in place to create and update your ecosystem based on all this intersection of customer intentions and business goals, you make navigating a complex digital ecosystem a more human experience. This increases customers' feelings of autonomy and competence. It creates an organic conversation with them, which increases their motivation to keep doing business with you. In short, designing for customer intentions creates happy, loyal customers while saving you money and resources in the long run. And to us, that is just good business. So Diana mentioned we have several articles we've written on this topic, some out on UX Booth, and there are a few on Boxes and Arrows. We're happy to provide links if anybody's interested. If you want to learn more about this method and using it for your business, you could sign up for our newsletter or reach out. The link is right here on the site for our newsletter. But that's it for the presentation. So let's open it up to questions in the time we have left.
All right. Hey, Diana and Liz, thank you very much. I admit the hexagons were mind-bending. And we do have a few questions.
Wonderful.
And one of them you did partially answer, but I have a feeling there's more to the story. The first question is, do you use supporting information such as customer journey maps or user research to inform this realistic path? Are there other methods that inform this?
The answer, yeah. I mean, as you said, Paula, we do a lot of, as much, I should say, it all depends because as everybody here knows, every client or sponsor is different and how much research they're willing to budget for. But we do use a lot of customer journey mapping. We've even expanded it to out to the service design layer where we're blueprinting entire services and then creating journey maps within those. And then, of course, through all of that, we're doing as much one-on-one direct research we can, and also as much indirect research we can, looking at customer behavior logs, analytics and that sort of thing.
So following up on that, do you create parallel customer journey maps for physical and digital so that you can create an organic digital experience?
That's an interesting question. The way we, maybe we're, I'm thinking about this, the way when we do customer journey maps, I think that's why we kind of start at the service blueprint level, in the sense of that's what's kind of pointing out where there may be parallel journey maps. So in that realm, like, let's say we would do the service, the entire service experience it first. And then from there, we might do, like you're saying, an online website, customer journey map, and then a more specific in-person journey map. I think we just did a service blueprinting. Well, I don't think we just did a service blueprint for the kind of in-store actually Sitka experience. And so from there, we would create a specific customer journey, but we would do that more for implementation purposes. Meaning we would try to combine as many real life mediums like back and forth as possible in one map, unless we were specifically implementing like a website update or something like that.
Okay. Sherry, did you have anything else did you feel like there was something else you wanted to ask in that question?
No, but I can go ahead and, I mean, it answered my question. I can go ahead with the next question. If that's
great.
So you were showing the hexagon and all of that. And right now I currently use card sorting and tree testing and things like that. Do you do any of those kinds of methods to test that? Or is there, another way? Or are you just basing that on your prior research?
For the Sitka example, and Diana, talk over me at any time if I'm getting off the rail. She's like, of course, that's just how we roll. But for the Sitka example, we didn't specifically use card sorting or the tree jacking stuff.
Yeah.
But we have done that, especially for some intranet or internal stuff. So it kind of depends on the project. But so we have employed it for sure. But for this specific example, we did not.
Okay, so I'm just curious if you use the traditional tree testing methods with this method, I know you have hexagons and things like that, but it seems to me that, if something is in the, going from the home page and you have 5 doors, how do you, test that without it being in the traditional linear sense?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the idea a lot of the tree testing is to test the linear path of the navigation. And what we're doing with this method is just saying, we don't want a linear path of navigation. Like
Right.
we could test it and make sure that works, but it's more, we try to do more like freestyle is probably too loose of a term, but like a freestyle usability test to see where users wander.
Yeah.
And if everything they need to wander exists on the page.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe tree testing isn't the great way to test this method.
Right.
And that's
right.
okay.
Right.
That's okay.
I think, yeah, I mean, we're still proponents of to kind of make sure your hierarchy is solid. Because it does create a sense of place. Like we don't want to just throw out the hierarchy, the vertical or hierarchy, vertical, but the hierarchy, we don't want to throw that out, but it's no longer the leading way of navigating. It now has a competition.
Right. Now it makes me think I need a new tree testing methods. So not tree testing, but hexagon testing. So
yeah, and you know what, just to kind of give you some advice on that, what we've done in the past, that's been very interesting, is we've done some of the remote usability tests where we'll have either the, if you have a prototype, or even if it's a site that, even if it's just some I could say wireframes or designs, and we would ask more general questions than task-based questions. Like, what would you want to do on this page?
Okay.
Show me how you would do that. And then and you're doing it remotely, so it's much less time, and like you don't need to facilitate it. And that's given us a lot of clues as well.
Great. Yeah. So it's more of a, it sounds to me it's really close to the jobs to be done, but not quite.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason we actually wrote an article about this, or it might be on one of our individual sites or our site. I feel like there was we wrote an article because somebody has made that comment, and they're rightly so. And in the way that we kind of separate it is that for us, jobs to be done is a great method. but it's almost, I say this because it's not a slam on it. It's just our take where it's almost too limiting. And we wanted to make the list of intentions less specific, like less like focused, worded, because we wanted to kind of we wanted to make sure that like buying an item, right, can be done in so many ways.
Yeah.
It's like my job, like when I structure it in a job to be done, it could be almost too constricting, and it would almost like break off that wandering piece of it.
Yeah, and I like that because it's making me think that instead of, the jobs to be done analogy is that somebody doesn't want to drill, they want to a 1/4 inch hole, so they're going to try to find a drill that does the 1/4 inch hole within a price range that they want. Right. But your method is saying, what are you trying to accomplish? It's more like, what is your intention? Well, I want to buy this jacket that is specifically for what I need it for. And I want to know why, and I want to know all the things about it. So it's much more encompassing than jobs to be done. So exactly. I get that. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, great question.
Okay, we have another question from Sean. And he asks, is this versatile enough to apply it to product UX and not just website focus?
I mean, that is our intent. We as I mentioned, we are still working with a company that we use as an example, and it's not exactly product UX in the sense of, I'm assuming you by product you meant UX, you mean like physical product. But so if you could give us a clue with that, that'd be cool.
John?
Yeah. What I meant by product UX is more like, let's say, an application, right? It's the software as a service, and we have an app. The actual designing and usability of that product itself, could this be applied in that realm?
Yeah, I mean, that is for sure our aim. It's different. It's definitely different. And we've had these, Diana, I'm looking because I know you stick up for this a lot, which is awesome. Where it's like we've had these conversations, and as we mentioned, we're still kind of developing that method, the specific way to do that within our explorations. But the concept being that this application, like let's say it's an enterprise app, and it's an enterprise, maybe web app. They're going to go here they're going to, it might be something that a stock trader goes and logs into every day to make trades, or I'm totally screwing that up because I haven't watched a stock trader do that. But they still have those intentions, and they may not wander. So it may be more like a tree testing focus kind of deal, but there will still be some elements that we want to highlight based off of their intentions. And maybe with those applications like the one I'm mentioning, you do focus more on the jobs to be done versus making it intentional.
Okay.
Understood. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And Logan has a question, says, can you please help explain why you were able to help the hunting jacket retailers? Which changes to their pages did you implement specifically?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we first started working with them, their pages were very basic. So think the picture, maybe like there was a picture, but a picture of the item that's very much like a flat, here's a jacket kind of deal. A description, but the description might be either too general or too like specific with the technology. So it's very basic with like that sort of product information. There may be there were links to related products, but the products weren't like necessarily related by system. So like you would might want to see the same, when we say system, it's like there's a specific pattern for which you would hunt in waterfowl versus white-tailed deer. And the related products you might see on a waterfowl jacket page might be other jackets, but they have a different pattern. And you're like, that doesn't really help me because I'm hunting waterfowl. So to kind of get more specific on what changes we implemented to their pages, the first thing we did was we created these system pages, which they did not have, meaning a white-tailed deer, here are all the products in white-tailed deer that you hunt from a tree stand, versus here are all the jackets, gear that you hunt for a waterfowl in the panhandle, whatever.
So what I hear you saying is you created a better refined taxonomy.
A better refined taxonomy, which allowed us to then create a more exploratory flow.
Okay.
Through the hexagons. Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you said it that way. So we were able to say, okay, what is really that differentiates your product? And then how would users explore that?
Cool. Logan, is there anything else about your question that you aren't quite clear on?
No, that explained it well. Thanks.
All right. And are there any more questions? We've got about 10 minutes left. I've got one question of my own, but I can let that go if someone else has something that they want to ask. All right, well, while someone else is thinking about it, you said that this method makes it easier to update a website. That really caught my attention, and I'm curious as to why.
Right. Dee, I've been fielding all the questions. Am I talking over you too much? Did you?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I feel like I'm
Oh, good.
like,
No,
gosh,
no. Chatty Cathy.
I am Chatty Cathy. So one of the ideas behind that is that a lot of what we have found in our experience is what takes a lot of time with updating websites is debating about the best way to do so. Meaning, what should the page look like? You know, it's kind of like starting from scratch every time, or even if we do have a product page that, well, we might decide we want to tweak it because we have more technology, which is cool. Like we have newer technology, you know, and we want to try something new on it.
Mhm.
But a lot of that has not been, may or may not have been tested by either users or even quality assurance people. So what this method does is it bakes a lot of the user research into the information architecture, which then can be by saying, we have done our research, we know that this is what customers intend to do. We have then designed our taxonomy based off of, like you said, more refining. And then we've designed our user flows to allow users to wander our site, but still find whatever they need at any time. From that, we've created a page template that takes into account all of this rationale. And so now when it's time to put another new product, service, bio on the site, it's you've taken out all of the buildup of designing the intention behind the page. And now you just need to like say, okay, we need a new, we need products. Unfortunately, we're talking about e-commerce. We need a new product. Okay, we give a product page. We know that we need these modules. And we know then we can start thinking about what we want to put in each of these modules. But we don't start from where should it live, or what should it look like, or well, you know, even how much content do we need on it?
Huh.
So you're basically creating this this duplicate and edit. But you're doing that with a whole bunch of customer rationality baked into it. It's not just and hopefully we're usability testing and gathering research on what we've built as we go and refining.
Yeah, that is the hope, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
We have another question. Thank you very much for that. I have a follow-up to that, but someone else has a question. So that is, Sherry wants to know, have you found a limitation to the hexagon method?
The biggest, I just did a woo-saw in my head, like woo-saw, you can come. The biggest limitation from my experience, and I'm saying this because I don't want to speak for Dee on this one, but the single biggest limitation is how advanced it is. And I don't say that as, I'm not saying that arrogantly.
No, that makes sense. That
Right.
makes total sense. My question was going to be coming at that from the other side, and that was, how do you sell it?
And I was just about to answer that question, which
Yeah.
is what we have done and what worked really well with Sitka was we have started to and we just have, Sitka was the first brand we did this with a few years back, but so this just happened to happen with them, but now we're trying to bake this in with all our client engagements, is that they were there for the first workshops where we were developing the list of intentions, and we showed them the hexagon method, and they were, so it's almost like they were part of it. So it's not like we did all this work and then showed it to them. It's when we started to do work that they weren't a part of, that they were not as able to appreciate what was happening.
So do you have an article or a video somewhere where you explain how you communicate these concepts to people who are used to the 90s and the 2000 aughts and the 20 teens websites? And now we're in 2020s, and there's this new way that is empowering, but it's very different. Do you have any information or materials that has vocabulary or language that you use to explain it to stakeholders?
Not yet.
We don't, but it's a great idea for us to do. I think generally, in terms of trying to explain this to business people, we as UX designers tend to be super immersed in screens and interactions and all kinds of language that pertains to technology specifically. But I think that stepping away from that type of terminology and just talking about customers just at a higher level. So users are sometimes users and sometimes they're customers, you know, and talking to business people in business terms, I think initially, you know, and then you can get down into the screens and the interactions and whatever other language you can use. But stepping out of that realm, and we're doing that a little bit now with the same client where we are doing these service design blueprints and Kano models, but it's all on the business level, on kind of like the customer experience level versus the user experience level. And I think that's an important distinction, because a lot of business people understand customer experience, and user experience is a little bit, they understand it, but then you kind of, it's a little bit different, you know, for them. So if you start from like a higher level and then zoom in, they do understand, and you can sell it easier that way.
Okay, that's helpful. Very helpful. I know some of the people on this chat are individuals who have to do that. They have to convince people that this is a valid approach, or that it's even worth talking about. All right, well, we're at about 3 minutes. Do you have any closing comments, or is there any questions that anyone's held back? Doesn't matter how silly it is or how risky it is. We are all about creating a safe place here. If you have anything on your mind, people, speak up. Let's go.
Well, can I just add to that point, Paula, that you just said? If anybody on this call really does have to sell it to their management, these ideas, maybe write in. I don't know. I guess you can write to us, and maybe you can write to Paula and team. What are some of the challenges that you're facing with selling it to inside your company? Because we really would love to create or write an article around this, and we'd love to know what your challenges are. and to be able to answer
Okay.
those questions.
That
Yeah.
sounds fantastic. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
And your contact information is right there on the screen. Awesome. That's fantastic.
Yep.
I really appreciate that. Okay, well, Sherry,
Yeah,
let's turn it over to you.
all
Thank
right.
you. Thank you very much, Liz and Diana.
Yes,
Thank you all
so
for having
much.
us.
Of course. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
All right, and we let y'all go 2 minutes to spare, so thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Thanks, y'all.
Have a
All
good
right.
evening. Bye-bye.
Thanks. All right, so I know I'm showing my whole screen, I think. But that was such an amazing presentation. I'm so glad that we've got that on recording. So our next one is announcements, and just I wanted to let you guys know that we are working on the website and adding more information. We have some great volunteers who have stepped up, helping with that, and we're open to ideas and more volunteers as well. If you're interested in that, just reach out on our Slack channel or email us. And we also are working on a shop so that we can get some UXSA merchandise, and it looks amazing, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. And that's going to be our fundraising method. We were doing sponsorships and things for the meetings, but we've decided to change to a different method, and we think that you should get something for your money if you're going to donate. So we really would appreciate that support. So look for that. And if you're signed up in the meetup group and all of that, we'll make sure that you get that information. Any other announcements that I haven't said anything? about?
Our next event.
Oh, that's later. I'll do that.
Oh,
after.
okay. All right.
Okay. So let's do the door prize. And what I have done is put everybody's name on a wheel. And okay, is everybody still here?
Cassandra's gone.
Oh, okay. Well, she can still win, I guess.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is click it and spin it, and that way you know that it's not fixed in any way. And the door prize is for Becky.
Yay!
Drop. Becky dropped 2. So Becky won a $25 gift card to Rosenfeld Media or Amazon, and we'll send that to her. We'll get in touch with her. So we do this every month, and it's just it's a lot of fun for us to do. And the next thing is, this is just a little clunky here. All right, so the next thing is our next meetup is in October, and it's called Squawk. Julie Jensen, she is a former VP of UX at Frost, and I need to learn where she's at now, but she's helped us a lot in this community and helped us with portfolio reviews and things like that. But she has developed her own system of smart system UX feedback and critique. And that's, very, very helpful with our industry is learning how to give, really constructive feedback and critique to help each other be better. And I think it'll be a great presentation. I'm really looking forward to it. She's a very good speaker. So if you can, it's already posted up on Meetup. So if you want to go ahead and sign up for that, it's been posted on our Meetup page for an event. And then we are having October the 4th, the first Monday of every month, we have an AMA, which is Ask Me Anything. And we just kind of hang out and ask UX questions, talk about the latest methods or challenges that we've had, get advice from other people that are more experienced, and that sort of thing. I have, I'm the president of this group, but I have a mentor and I call upon her frequently. And we want this to be a place to do that. So we just had someone in the Slack channel asked for tips for an interview that she's having tomorrow. So, and we do that quite often. But feel free to drop in. And the difference between the regular meetings and the AMAs is that we do not record the AMAs. We make that a very open and informal discussion. And there's no presentation slides. It's just us hanging out, talking. So if you feel more comfortable in that environment, you're welcome to join us. And that's all I have. And we're open to networking at this point. And I can go ahead and stop the recording.